Now, we'll just keep it moving quickly. We have a fantastic panel conversation just about to start, and I'm here because my co-MC is the moderator. So ladies and gentlemen, as she comes to introduce her panel, please put your hands together for the wonderful singing lawyer, June Gashu.
See this behavior. Now after today, I'll have to walk by myself, climb big steps by myself. Thank you, Amani. And yes, James, thank you. I think that keynote was a very good context for the conversations we're about to have. And so we're jumping straight into our first panel, as you have heard. And this is one that will be filled with inspirational stories. I have 3 panelists who will be joining me up on stage who've gone through the ringer. And they'll be telling us their very raw and real stories of their journey to success. So I hope that you're ready. I hope that you have your notebooks ready, your questions ready. So let me start by introducing my first panelist, Kamal Budabati of Craft Silicon. Would you please join us up on stage? A round of applause as he comes. Should I also help you, or you're okay? Karibu sana. Pick a seat that you're comfortable with. Next up, I'd like to invite Bernard Wambogo of Sauti Call Center. Would you please come up on stage, Bernard? Round of applause as he does. You were told what color the chairs were. I see what you did. I see. And let me invite Anna Dives, Anna Wanjiro, my apologies, from Anna Dives Consultancy. Karibu sana. All right, so these are my panelists for our first conversation today. And allow me to just ask each of you to introduce yourselves. I think because we're all here for networking, we've been given instructions. You must meet 10 people who you did not know, and I think the best way to do that is to introduce yourselves. So let me start with Anna. Yes, ladies first.
Okay.
But gentlemen just before, but ladies first today.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Anna. I am a consultant and entrepreneur. And my key area is in behavior change. So behavior change communications. I have created a large online community around wellness, and we continue to innovate every day, so thank you.
For those of us who have no idea what behavior change is, would you spend a minute just telling us what that is?
It's really rooted in personal growth and just bettering yourself, whether that's around health, mostly health, actually, and finances. So my first business, My Planted Kitchen, was around health and wellness. So really, when I think of it, I was very much heavily involved in behavior change communications online. And so we innovated to other products based on that.
Okay, thank you. Bernard Wambogo.
Yes.
How are you, sir?
I'm well. You're doing all right?
I'm wonderful.
Good.
So a little bit about who you are and what you do, your background, your business.
Sure. So I'm Bernard Wambugu. At heart, I'm a tech entrepreneur. Built products that mostly were international. Most of my adult life was spent in the US, where I used to build products that would impact Africa in the fintech space. But of late, I'm here. I'm glad to be back. The last 3 years, I've been doing the reverse, which is building products here that will be taken out into global markets. I'm also the chairman of Sauti Call Center. So if you called into the Big Baraza, or you got a call from Big Baraza, most times it was coming from our team on behalf of the conference itself. So I'm happy to be here. Glad to meet everybody. I'm excited.
Okay. For a moment there, when you said Sauti Call, I thought you said Sauti Soul Call Center, but we'll talk a little bit about that when we come back. And of course, Kamal Budabati, Craft Silicon, and Little. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kamal. I'm the I'm the founder for Craft Silicon. Craft Silicon provides financial software solutions across several countries, both in Africa as well as in Asia. I'm a Kenyan, so it's a Kenyan company selling software outside, not the other way around, where the Indian companies come here and start selling the software. Yeah, the Kenyan companies are now selling softwares in India and the other countries as well. And then later I founded another company called Little. Little is a ride-hailing, it started as a ride-hailing company, but now it's a super app. You can do several things, and it's also growing quite well. Thank you.
Is Little a big company? Sorry, you opened the door. It was there for my taking. Why the name Little? Where did that come from? Everyone says, I'm in a small meeting. Me, I always say I'm in big meetings. So why Little?
So, you know what I feel, and I think little things in the life makes the most difference, both in professional life as well as personal life. So those little things do really matter a lot, and that's why we thought, you know, with Little, I want to start providing those little missing things that can make your life amazing.
Okay, I'm convinced, and I agree. They're little to small things, as the Kenyans would say. All right. All right, well, let's dive a little bit deeper then, with your permission, my dear panelists. And I think what we want to hear from you is, you know, we said you're going to tell us your raw stories. So I imagine that it has not always been easy. Some of the words that are sitting here behind us are such words as adversity, opportunity, owning the times, owning the spaces that you're in. So I want us to dive a little bit deeper, and I would like to ask, perhaps you, Bernard, we'll start with you. What's been your inspiration, first of all, to jump into your entrepreneurial journey? You mentioned that you'd been in the US working. So what inspired the birth of Sauti Call Center?
Oh, it was simple. We felt, so just keep in mind that around the world, people are building products. Those products are being supported by, as they grow, they're being supported by call centers, most of them in India. And the general feel was that in Kenya, we have a much better grasp of the English language. We are emerging as a true economy globally. So being able to begin to set up the call center here would allow us to be able to provide the customer service experience that a lot of our clients' products are trying to, as they are trying to get to market. So that was the whole inspiration, is we felt we had this group of amazing Kenyan upcoming population that is well educated, that speaks good and well English, that can compete globally with the Indians and the Malaysians and all of that, to be able to provide good customer service. And that's turning out to be the case. So we are really, really excited to do that. The group of agents that we end up hiring are true representative of what we believed in early on in the process. So it's been quite a good journey. I've truly enjoyed the process.
About that. How many would you say are in your company right now? What's your staff count currently?
So we are just crossing the 30 number. We just started in 2020. My business partner here, Bishop James, and I birthed the idea. So we truly started it at the time when everything was revolving. So part of this panel discussion will be, I'm hoping we can get to what we learned from those tough moments, because they have really been tough. But again, as Mr. Mureu said, being resilient is going to be part of that entrepreneurial walk across, and I'm sure it's across all our businesses here.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. So 30 is where we're at the moment?
Yeah.
Okay, and I think we have more Kenyans who can talk. So you're open to...
Oh, yeah.
This is pitch yourself. There could be people here.
We're trying to grow. We know we have... we have a long way to go. We believe we're offering great services on behalf of our customers. So to our clients, customers, they never hear of our name, Sauti. We are always representing them, and the goal is to get them to grow. So hopefully they can trust us with more business.
With more business.
Yeah.
I'm sure that is coming shortly. Anna, let me come over to you. You referenced your first business, My Planted Kitchen, and now that, I believe, led the way for you to set up Anna Dives consultancy. So I think sharing your journey with us would be important. Was it also a COVID-inspired move? Was this one of those pivots? I think that was one of the other bits of, what are they called? Keywords. What did Moreo call them? Buzzwords, right? New normal, pivoting. What was this one of those scenarios for you?
Okay, so it's been a journey, honestly. With My Planted Kitchen, it started as a passion project, right? So you know how you feel stagnant around, especially health. You're seeing probably you're overweight, nothing is happening. So I started it as a blog. And I was sharing my journey of how I'm getting healthier. And through that, there was a lot of inspiration, and I started to grow a large online community. We just crossed 32K online organically. And so I thought, okay, maybe perhaps I can serve this online community. So I would do a lot of group challenges. I would do ebooks. I've authored a cookbook that is gluten-free and dairy-free. And from that, actually, I don't know what I'd call it, a buzzword. There's this new trend where everyone is now gluten-free, right? People are allergic to wheat. And so one of the things, if you go to every Kenyan home, you'll find that at least once a week you'll have chapati. And to get a gluten-free flour that does chapati is really hard. And so for years, that's one of the innovations we had to come up with, was how do we continue serving this community? And so that birthed another brand called Home Chef, where we do a gluten-free flour that specifically does chapati and mandazi, because it's a very difficult thing. And so there's been a lot of demand for that. And you can see all this was really inspiring personal growth, health and wellness, and all of it was done online. So there was a strong online communication skill that I needed to grow over more than 7 years. So that's when I also started serving other small online brands that are in the behavior change space that are wondering, how do I create large online audiences and how do I serve them? Yeah.
So let me ask the question that I think is on maybe some people's minds here. The online space has become another market, let's call it that. It opened up friends and foes, it opened up more opportunity, more customers. So what degree do we go and learn for those of us who want to pivot there, as opposed to maybe hiring people who are better versed in the digital space to help to grow? You mentioned things like the numbers, your online community, organic engagement. What does that mean?
Well, you do need to have basic communication skills, right? And even business skills. But I think with the digital space, it's a matter of being up to trend, just staying with the trend and trying out, testing out. It's such an important thing. And going back to read the analytics to find out what's working and running with what's working, as opposed to trying to reinvent the wheel. So there are so many online courses. Google has them, HubSpot have them. You can go and learn. However, I think the best teacher is trying and failing.
And failing.
Yes.
Okay.
Just to support her a bit, if I'm seated on that side as an entrepreneur and I'm hearing her services, I think one thing as entrepreneurs we don't pay close attention to as we're busy trying to build these businesses is our own health. And not realizing that taking care of that actually is what gives you the ideas and the ability for you to be able to pivot and change. So just contrary to her, I became a vegetarian a few years ago. I mean, I'm just telling, if my mother threw some meat at me, I definitely won't say no, but it was the whole aspect of, if I take care of my own health, I am able to persevere and be resilient enough to be able to focus and be able to grow our business. So a business space like ours really helps you, the entrepreneur, be able to pivot yourself, because health is gold. Yeah. The best weapon you can have to be able to compete in this market, in any market, is for the founders and the CEOs to be healthy internally and obviously externally.
No, I think,
Absolutely.
thank you for sharing that. We always hear the phrase that your biggest resource, your most valuable resource are your people and yourselves as founders, as entrepreneurs. So you're very right. If we don't take care of this temple, then what are you doing? What's happening in your office? I'll come back to you a bit later on because I do want to get a feel from our room today about the gluten-free, the vegetarian, all these things that I think our society is now starting to understand that there are options. Kamal, let me come to you and let me just jump in and ask you, what has been your most significant failure to date, business-wise?
I think not getting the right people at the right time, or getting some people who you think are right at the wrong time. That I think has been the biggest failure.
And how quickly did you realize they were the right people at the wrong time or the wrong people at the right time?
So what happens if you get the right people at the wrong time? They would get frustrated because they want to bring in a change, and you are either not in a position to adopt to those changes, or you are not in a position to support them financially to bring on those changes. So they get frustrated. And when they get frustrated and then they leave us, you start feeling that, a change like this is not the right change, and then you become resistant to the change. So it's, you just have to figure it out that once you get in somebody, you just have to take it in such a way that you are on a one-way street without a U-turn. Otherwise it becomes extremely difficult if you midway you let them go and then you get back to where you started.
When you say people, are we talking about staff members? Are we talking about investment or donor partners? What are we speaking about?
I think both of them, and if you look at my journey on this business, even we got some investment at some point and it was a disaster.
So money is not always a good thing.
No, the investment was right, but it was brought in at the wrong time.
The wrong time, okay.
So I think everything has to have the right time. Sometimes it's very difficult to say, is it in the first year you should do this, it is in the second. I think it's you as a business person need to judge, are you ready for that change?
Kamal, let me ask you, do you mind sharing a little bit about what happened without saying names in case they are here?
No, they are not here.
Okay, good. So tell us, what did they do? What happened?
But one of my board members is here and he's laughing.
Do we have permission? Okay, he says go ahead. I think it's important to learn from the actual steps, because when we hear investment at the wrong time, we may not understand really what that means as entrepreneurs.
So a couple of years back, and this is for Craft Silicon, so a couple of years back when we were I think about 20, 25 people and we were growing, we thought we could grow much faster if we have the right investment. And generally there was a buzzword that if you have an investment and you get in some good money, they would help you to scale up, because scaling up is, I think, the biggest challenge everyone faces, to break the ceiling and go to the next level. So we got in this investor. They were good people. I'm not saying they were not they were good people, but I think good people at the wrong time. So and as an investor, obviously you also need to figure out, is there a right fitment between you and them, from your vision, from the mindset, from heart to heart. Ask some questions to your heart and says, gut feeling, are they the right people? So when this investor came in, they had a short-term vision, because they obviously wanted to make quick money and then obviously exit with another investor. So they would invest in some money, they'll help the company to scale up quickly, and then they would exit and somebody else will come in. So they had a short-term vision. While us as founders, because the company was small, we had a long-term vision. We were not worried about not making money today, but then through years of experience and growing, make the money at a later point. So there was a disconnect. They wanted quick returns, we wanted long returns. So boardroom was, I think, we're always fighting. It became me versus them versus us. Whatever they used to tell us, even if it made sense, I would just say, no, this is bullshit. And whatever I say, they would think, oh yeah, it's good, but they would also do the same. So I think it was very bad for the company, very bad for them. We learned a lot from them. I don't know if they learned from us, but we definitely learned from them. and then we had to, with the help of our other board members, we had to buy them back and then amicably part the ways.
All right, so some of the, I'm coming to you, Bernard. So some of the conversations you would say in a quick summary is have that conversation with your investor or anybody who you're seeking to bring in. What's your vision? What's your long-term or short-term plan?
I think anytime you get into an engagement with anybody, just ask them what is their motive in joining. I think the word motive is very important. You know, what is it that they want to achieve? Because sometimes it's like, you know, you meet them for the first time, they would be in their best to explain you why they are so good. And you would also be in your best to explain them why you are the best. But ask for the motive, understand them, don't just get in the first date and get into, you know, the wedding. Meet them several times, meet the people who they are working with and understand them. Because people are not wrong, it's their motives and your motives don't sync. That's where things fall apart.
You're describing a marriage relationship and courtship, so yeah, it's problematic across the board. Bernard,
It's a marriage.
It is a marriage.
Yeah. So I think being on, I also run a fund group that funds companies in Africa. Where we've deployed money across a few African businesses, some of them in Kenya. The number one, we're talking about failure. And I'll admit I have failed far more than I've succeeded. Of about 30 products I've taken to the market, 27 did not see 4 years or 5 years. So on companies that you're trying to build with long-term vision, those are hard failures to take. But when I sit across, when entrepreneurs, business owners come looking for funding, they make a few critical mistakes that cause them either not to get funding or in Kamal's case, and not his specific one, get the funding either with the wrong partners or the wrong type of funding. Not knowing your business. You need to know the unit economics of your business, how your business ticks, not knowing who the investor is and why they would be interested in your product, not understanding the market and who you're trying. So those things become challenges for people that I see. But how we deal with failure, I've learned culturally is different. If you're in the US, failure is part of growth. So everyone there looks at success lies on the far side of failure. If you go over to Japan, failure is suicidal. So, people do take on their own lives for having failed. So can you, as an entrepreneur, be able to deal with failure, learn quickly, adjust, and be able to move your product so it gets to market? That's now the question that I'm hoping everyone can be able to learn from. Yeah.
So what's been your biggest failure then? You said you failed far more than you have succeeded.
Oh my goodness.
Pick the biggest one, the one that's significantly. Misjudging the market. Market changes. I think that was my biggest one. The series of housing investments that we thought were going to be successful, and then the market shifted downwards. We lost lots of properties, and so on the brink of bankruptcy. So that would be the painful ones. I've lost great team members who I thought would be with me long term. Their departure at such an unprepared stage caused failures in some of the business. Not understanding the market well enough. Mr. Mureo here just told everyone that 70% of SME owners are women. So then is your product built to be able to attract, to cater to 70% of the women? Who will bring your funding? No, so understanding those things, I've learned a lot. Right now, the fintech product I'm building, which is bringing 0% loan services here to Kenya. In fact, my partner will be speaking here later this afternoon. We know the statistics. It's about that number. 70% of loan repairs on time are women. So women apparently are not just doing better with the SMEs, they are repaying loans at a much more consistent rate than the fellow guys. So
understanding those things. If you don't know those things, that you end up giving, in my case, giving loans to the wrong people, and then they don't pay you back.
Yeah.
And that's the story.
Thank you for sharing that. A funny anecdote. Construction, residential property construction project went up, and then after, it was a group of men in this boardroom, in this committee, and they built beautiful apartments, and then invited a lady to come and walk through. What do you think the first thing she went to see was? The kitchen and the Adobe area. And there was hardly enough space to wash clothes. There was hardly enough space in the pantry. And now the entire building is up and the guys are very happy. So I think it's prudent to just invite some of us. We can give you comments.
No.
Comments.
I believe, our ladies, I'm not saying guys are great. We take risks. But goodness, the value ladies who are in business and who can bring is immense.
It is something that should have a price tag on it. But thank you for sharing those failures. Anna, let me come to you. Have you failed?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah?
Many times.
Like successfully failed?
Fail forward.
I think we need to get to the point where we normalize failure and we normalize being friends with failure, because then that's how we learn. So maybe let's hear your story. How big was this failure?
Oh my gosh, I invested in an outlet for Home Chef, right? And initially I thought the business model will be to make the gluten-free products, whether it's spring rolls, samosa, pizza, think of it. And then, we'd partner with Glovo and Uber Eats and their likes to have that food, distributed. Because that, after COVID, that became the norm. People weren't going to sit and eat, because I opened this actually mid-2021, right? And it's very recent. So what I realized was that was a very early move. And the culture around mandazis and chapati is that nannies make that. Again, understanding the women that I serve is that they don't stand in the kitchen to make these things. They actually outsource. So that we realized the sales just were not making sense. We made a way too early move. And the best business model to reach most people actually was the flour. So that's the other thing with entrepreneurs. The business model that you think you're going to start with is rarely the one that ends up making you successful or wealthy. You have to be like water, fluid, adaptable, keep rolling with the punches. That was a punch, I felt it, but I'm very glad because we've got orders even from the US for the flour from all over, hotels, international schools, for people who are just allergic to wheat, and they're like, we want this. So it was a blessing.
So other than going to see a doctor, what is the thing Kenyans need to know about being? Is it the discomfort we feel? Do you, like, if you were to simplify it without the medical history, right? I'm asking this because I had a conversation about our government tea. The one that has milk that came from a cow. The one where there's 4 layers of cream like this. And as soon as everybody finishes the thermos, there's a discomfort. It's not pleasant, right? Yeah. And we still don't know that there's something in our system that's telling us you're probably lactose intolerant, you're probably gluten intolerant. So what is the thing? Are we saying to Kenyans here, go check, maybe your child has an allergy or some discomfort that they're experiencing and you don't know? Because I think that's important also. It's not just the trend. What would make me say I'm going to actually go and buy the gluten-free flour? What's been that conversation or feedback that you've received?
I think it's the wheat variety that's being planted that has really caused the major problem here. So the wheat variety that is being planted, of course you know a lot about genetically modified seeds, has more gluten. So when you think back to when we were growing up, now I don't know, maybe there are Gen Zs and double As, but yeah, for a lot of us that grew up back then, you would hardly hear of gluten-free intolerance. Actually, we survived on chapati and mandazi and all that
And
very
bread.
well.
Yeah.
And bread. But now it's a problem, and it's really rooted in the wheat variety. Now that's a whole bigger conversation around the policies and, you know, what we are allowing, you know, and the banning of GMO seeds. However, in the meantime, you'll notice the problem is around children. A lot of children are not able to actually handle wheat very well. They get eczema, they get you know, the bloating, their discomfort, and even adults as well. So it's being seen as a health solution, I think, which, and for most people, we all want to be comfortable, but you find yourself compromising because there's no choice, there's no option.
And I'm really happy you went there, because my next question is going to be, what kind of conversation should we then be having? And I'm happy you've mentioned, you know, the agricultural side of things and the seeds, because policies determine a lot of what we do. And I think at this point, even just to say to all of us here as entrepreneurs, we need to be involved in some of the discussions. I mentioned the other day that there's been 8 new laws in Kenya since January of 2022. And I don't know how many of us are taking the time to actually be aware of some of the regulations, some of the changes that are happening in our laws here in Kenya, and not just focusing on elections, because these are some of the things that will affect our businesses as entrepreneurs very, very directly. So thank you for mentioning that. Africa Day was last Wednesday. Does anybody know what the theme was? Shall I just tell you? The Year of Nutrition. Right? The Year of Nutrition. So it's a very relevant conversation. I think it's more than just, it's a trend. It's more than just an online conversation. I think it is literally the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kamal, I wanted to have a conversation with you about recovery. And you sort of started talking about it when you said you had to get the help of some of your board members in the incident you described to be able to then buy back what you had given to these investors. And I think how do we empower ourselves to recover quicker? And with that, given the context of the last 2 years, what's been your recovery journey for the things that have not worked very well, and how quickly have you been able to do that?
So personally, I think for me, the way recovery happened, and I'm not sure if it's a God gift to me, but this is how all entrepreneurs should be, is that they should not get stressed. Somehow and as I say, it possibly may be a God gift to me, is under whatever circumstances, I hardly get stressed. I mean, there is a fire here, and then when you are not stressed, it's not that you are not, it's just that you are able to manage the stress and make the right decision. Because sometimes if you are stressed, then the decisions you make are not the right decision that will take you out of that stress. So for me, I think stress has always it has been a gift to me that I don't really get stressed. But then what happened in this particular incident is that you create a good network of people who are well-wishers to you. And if you have that people, even though you may not be interacting with them on day-to-day basis, have some people who always have your back. And what happens is, when you are in a business, you need to figure out your identity, your way of working, what kind of person you are. If you are a person who is a risk taker, then you should have a co-founder or somebody who always have your back. If you are a person who is not a risk taker but somebody who always at the back, then must have a person who then is a risk taker and you always have his back. So in this kind, when you have this kind of team, then I think anything that comes up, you always come out of it. Because even when the COVID came in, as much as everyone had problems and even we had problems, it's not that the world is going to end. Business would still continue, people would still innovate, people would still have to figure out how to live their life. So just try to figure out, be innovative on where you should drive the business. And if you do that, I think then business is not a hard thing to do.
How many people are still stuck on he does not get stressed? like, I feel like that's the block, right? So stress happens, and then everything else you're saying is like, what do you mean? I can't see. Because I think you're right, and I think that's the hardest part of it. So is it exercise? Is it walking? Is it having a punching bag in your basement? What is the thing? Other than, I know you've said God has given you, but he may not have given everybody that gift. So what are your, like very practically, what are your stress management, because I'm sure some of the people in your team are not as cool, calm, and collected as you are. What do you tell them to do?
Okay, personally, so I, when I get stressed, I like driving fast. So personally, when I really get stressed, I take up my car and...
Which road are you using so we can avoid it?
The expressway. You're very happy about the expressway.
Stay away from the expressway. Kamal is coming.
Where do you drive?
I go to Viewpoint. You know Viewpoint on your way to Naivasha?
Yes.
That's my favorite spot. So when I get stressed, you take your car from our office. We are on Waiyaki Way, so from there you just drive straight.
Yeah.
Go at the speed.
You put an out of office and say...
And just go there, just, free up your mind. Don't go with your mobile. I mean, this is what I do. Not that you have to do that, but don't take you just go in, stand there for like half an hour. And I think by the time you come back, then your brain is refreshed, and then you possibly would now start having fresh ideas on how to handle the problems that are in front of you.
Okay, drive fast. And go to the Viewpoint and see Kenya. Tembea Kenya kidogo. Thank you, Kamal. Bernard, your journey with recovery as well. I'm asking this specifically because I think everybody expects the punch. Everybody expects the hit when the business isn't doing well. I think the success is being able to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving. So what's that formula?
What are those steps? Yeah, outside of good stress management, which I wouldn't recommend fast driving for everybody. Myself, I hike a lot, so I get into nature. I don't listen to music. I just let my mind go. But if you take out the personal aspect of it and just now start refocus, how do you recover as a business to start now growing winning products? Again, I'll say what Joram is doing here with the Big Baraza and Sandbox. I want to point entrepreneurs back there because it's in the meeting of minds, being able to go to another fellow entrepreneur, talk about certain situations that are happening. A lot of these things, they're mostly in our heads, in our entrepreneur heads. The block happens there. So and especially when you're so close to the business, you're almost like the ant that is trying to pick up from the ground. But if you have fellow colleagues that you can run ideas through on what you're challenging, you're able now to get that bird's eye view to look at the business as a whole versus the one area that may be failing or not failing. So I would say what Joram and team and all of you are doing with Sandbox, that's great. That's, to me, are the places to initially go to start your recovery journey. Finding either new talent, new partners who are skilled in certain areas. I try and align myself with areas that I feel I am deficit in. If I don't get them early enough, I will say I will go out and look for other partners and other brains to come and help build what we're doing. Again, I try never to build anything for myself. I'm always trying to partner, always trying to find the right relationships to be able to grow, because the best companies are ran in teams. There are no successful companies that are ran by individuals. Even if you might see the names out there, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, nobody knows that when Bill Gates was pitching, the key guys who were building the product was somebody who was not known at the time. So finding the right relationships helps you get past those failing points and be able to go to extend beyond that.
Thank you. Anna, let me come as we wind up with you. You mentioned a generation that has been stressing a lot of us recently, Gen Z and wale wengine. And I think because you are in the space that they probably interact with and in more than anybody, how can we help them? How can we help them help us? Because there's the last census, I believe, said that our mean age in Kenya is 20.1 years, which really gave me a bit of a heart attack, because it means the majority of we have a very young population, and that is who all of you will then be hiring to then see the next sort of generation of your business. So maybe as we begin to close, can you can you help us understand what can we do better to bridge that gap?
I think at the core of it would be mentorship. But how? How do we reach them in a way that relates to them? So obviously the medium and the channels that we use have to be relevant and current. You can no longer be able to speak to them. If it's mentorship, say as a legal entrepreneur, you want to mentor the young upcoming lawyers, and the best channel right now is definitely online and digital. So you're not gonna go to Facebook, and you're not gonna give this, they're not there.
It's not Facebook anymore?
They're not there. The Gen Z are not on Facebook. You'll
Yes.
find a medium or a channel where you can reach them. And it's not a monologue, it's a dialogue. This young generation don't do well with monologues. They do well with dialogues, inviting conversations in ways that really are not just informative but also entertaining. By the way, the dancing on TikToks is not for nothing. You will grab their attention and you'll be able to say something to them, you know? So I think it's being relevant, it's being current, it's finding ways to reach them, and just, and inspiring them. Because a lot of them, believe it or not, actually do look up to us. So if we're not creating such barazas
Forums, yeah.
for them, then we're not going to be able to really reach them. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our first panel. You're all around, I believe, for the next few hours, or even maybe the next 2 days, or today and tomorrow. So I want to say thank you on behalf of everybody here for sharing honestly and generously what your journey has been like. Keep doing that, keep talking to us, keep driving, keep hiring people to speak to others on phones, and keep helping us eat better and improve ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, please.